Well, it's that time of year when Idaho's crop growers are weeding their fields, and typically a 12-week process. Historically, that task started with hand weeding, right? It evolved to hand spraying and then machine spraying, which is still what most growers are doing to get rid of the weeds in their fields. But now there's a new thermal tool is doing it for them. Well, some of them, because it's rare and it's pricey. But it's worth it, according to one Idaho farm that has access to one of these 84 laser weeding robots. Aspen Shumpert went out to a western Idaho onion field to see this laser in action and hear how it's helping their operators.
A 20-foot deck on the back of a tractor, lasers killing weeds.
When the weeds are incredibly small, and by incredibly small, I'm talking about size of a dime. Dime or smaller, you want to get in and hit them then, because if you don't, then you're going to run into issues where the weeds will just run rampant.
He says the problem with weeds are not the weeds itself, but the cost of chemicals and labor. A problem Carbon Robotics wanted to solve.
The best way to figure that out was by using a laser to kill them.
It's a combination of AI, cameras, sensors, and tractor power.
So by using the AI and deep learning, it's able to determine the difference between a crop and a weed, and then tell the lasers to ultimately eliminate the weed within a millimeter of the crop.
The tractor operator watches the tablet inside the tractor, which tells them how fast to drive based on the weed density in the field. Right now, the technology focuses on just specialty crops and can identify about 100 different ones.
We are currently running on leafy veg, onions, carrots. Those would be round out the top 3.
In this field, the laser is targeting broadleaf, purslane, goat heads, and puncture vine. At Obendorf Farms, their tractor sprayer has an 80-foot span and can spray more acres more quickly than the laser can zap, compared to the laser weeder, which only hits about 6 rows at a time, but it runs all day and all night, making it the quickest form of weeding.
In a field like the one we're in right now with about 50 acres, this would probably take us a little over 30 hours.
The tool costs upwards of $1 million, but Obendorf Farms partnered with the farm in Texas to split the bill.
When you have a northern hem and a southern hem, they might only be using this for 12, 14 weeks out of the year. So to split the cost of the unit, it's ideal to find a partner down south so that they can then use it for their piece of the season that's opposite from, up here in the Treasure Valley.
Cole says the tool will head south in about 3 to 4 weeks. When it's done, the goal is to have a better product at the end.
We're trying to figure out how we can get our onions in the field to be the best they can be. Sometimes you got to start at the beginning. And so we wanted to limit the amount of herbicide that we're actually using on our onions and keep them in full growth mode instead of rehab mode throughout the season.
Obendorf still sprays pesticides and fungicides, but for now, herbicides they'll shield spray in between their rows and laser weed directly next to their crops so that the chemicals no longer make contact with the onions.
I think as labor becomes harder to find and more expensive, this is ultimately the future of weed control in farming.
The Carbon Robotics company has been selling these tools for just about 3 years. 84 of them have been sold across the country. Again, 2 of those live here in the Treasure Valley. They're designed in Seattle and built in Detroit. Brian.
Okay, so I hadn't seen that video before, but I was not expecting the puffs of smoke of the weeds actually getting obliterated right there on site.
And that's exactly what you were seeing, is the laser hitting those weeds and you're seeing smoke come up.
Okay, so the expensiveness part of this, I mean, ultimately the goal is to save money.
Right.
Is that happening?
I think that's going to have to be a wait and see. Again, this is the first season that Obendorf Farms is using the laser weeder, so ideally that's what they want, but most importantly, they want a healthier crop. So if the machine does both of those for them, we'll have to check back in and see if, 1, it saved them money, and 2, their onions were better.
All right, super interesting. Thanks, Aspen.